property, and I worked with them for a few years. But it was with Sheraton where I got my first job as a hotel general manager. And it really was an exciting time. It was where I met my second big mentor in my life. His name was Victor Burt Sr., and he has worked in a number of hotel companies around the world, very famous companies. He's managed some of the biggest hotels in the world, and his reputation preceded him. He was known to be a very meticulous, very particular, very demanding type of person to work for. So needless to say, before I met him, I was intimidated. I started to doubt my experience level. But then I made the conscious decision that, you know, I can either think this is going to be bad or I can think this is going to be a great opportunity. So I thought, might as well, great opportunity. I've got nothing to lose anyway. And much to my delight, and I later found out to his delight, it was. So this is a shot of Victor and I. That's me on the left, blonde at that time. And that was, I was managing the Sheraton Plaza in Vancouver. That was my pub manager, Sue. And we had just received notice that we had the permit from the City of Vancouver to open our al fresco dining patio on the street. So we were pretty happy that day. That man to this day is still my mentor. And it's like I said, you get out of something what you put into it. If I had gone into that relationship with that other mindset, I don't think we'd even probably recognize each other today because it wouldn't have lasted very long. But with that positive spin on it, yeah, it's worked. A lot of magic. So, Victor Burt, being the kind of guy he is also a fountain of knowledge. So, one of his favorite sayings is, you do not need to know all the answers, but you have to know where you can find all the answers you need. So that means you don't have to memorize all your textbooks. You don't have to remember everything that you learn in school or that you're learning in a job. But what you have to remember is, where do I go to find the information? And he was so right about that. I love this one. This is so true. So true. You can judge the cleanliness of any hotel operation, I guarantee you, by the condition of its elevators and its public washrooms. If those are clean, the kitchens will be clean and the guest rooms will be clean. I haven't quite figured out why that is. I think it's a degree of caring and pride, but that never fails. And that was one of Victor's big detailed advice to me. Take good care of your people and they would take good care of your business. That's very true. If you've got people who they understand where you're coming from, you care about them, they know that you're behind them, they're going to work wonders for you. You don't have to worry a lot, are they really out there doing a good job? They want to do a good job. It's like Roy did for me. The loyalty was incredible. And keep investing in your continued education. Victor, like Graham Barrett, who's the president of Coast Hotels today, was a big proponent of education and staying on top of your game. It's really, really important. You're never too old to learn something new, despite what they say about old dogs and new tricks. I love this one. Never settle for second best, and if you are the best, keep striving for even better. That was how he had looked at his career. He started as a bellman in a little hotel and grew his career to where he got to, and it was always because he wanted to get better at what he was doing. It was just that personal pride and personal excitement that he had. And passion for what you do is critical. As long as you love what you do, then you'll never work another day in your life. Those are really, really true words. And at that point, when he gave me that piece of advice, I didn't realize that just a little while later, those very words were going to create an epiphany for me, because I ended up in a situation where my career started to not go so good. So I'd been working in a hotel that I loved with somebody that I reported to that I really respected, And because of the owner deciding that they needed to sell their assets, got new owners. And it was probably the most difficult time in my career. They were very good people, but they knew nothing about doing business in Canada. They knew really nothing about hotel operations. And they had this idea that they would run a hotel like a manufacturing company. Well, hotels, what they deliver are intangible. Manufacturing is tangible. They work totally different. So I had all these people that I worked with that I really cared about, and I wanted to make this work. But I did start to lose my passion. And, you know, I'd go into the place that I loved to go every day, and it started to be a real drag. And I would get frustrated, and I'd start to get angry. And suddenly, Victor's words came back to me. I'm losing my passion. And so it was time to strike out and see what else I could find for myself. I realized, though, that it wasn't really the profession that was the problem. It was the circumstances for me that I was working under. So you always have to find an environment to work in that works for you. It should be a win-win situation. And again, that comes back to keeping your passion and keeping fresh and keeping excited about what you do. So, realized what I had to do, knew I had to find another job. Wasn't quite sure where that was going to come from, so I started doing my research. And that November, I was attending the annual BC Hotels Association luncheon. And just by chance, I ended up sitting between the then president of Coast Hotels and Resorts, Mr. Franco Anglesio, and the then general manager of the Coast Plaza Hotel and Suites, Mr. Craig Norris-Jones. Well, by the end of that luncheon, I knew Coast Hotels was the kind of company I wanted to work with, and that those two people were the kinds of people I wanted to work with. So by having reawakened the fact that I had to get my passion back, by having my map to tell me that I needed to keep going in my career, it kept my eyes open and my mind open to opportunities that came along. So always remember, your map helps you do that as well, right? So it took a bit of time and a little bit of patience. It's November we met. By April of the next year, I found myself signing my employment contract with Coast Hotels to be the Director of Operations for the Coast Plaza. Part of my issue in making up my mind was the fact that I was leaving position of General Manager to become Director of Operations. And I guess my pride was kind of making me feel that this was a step backwards and maybe it was the wrong thing to do. It was not the wrong thing to do. This is going back to when I had to make my decision to leave the company I was working with. I just finished creating that. I was so proud of that. I had my dad come to the opening. So that was another reason that it was hard to make the decision to leave. But with Victor's words in my ears, I knew it was time to move forward. So a couple of more tips for you. Like I said, be very specific when developing your goals. Go even deeper. You want to create a timeline, and you want to be very specific with that timeline. Give yourself exact dates. Give yourself a place that it's going to happen. And write down why it's so important to you. And again, this all goes back to the fact, unless you make this really real, it's a dream or a wish, it's not a goal. This is a big one. And especially early in your career, it's really sometimes hard to trust your intuition because you think you don't know enough. You think that that thing is not leading you in the right direction, whatever intuition is. But honestly, if a situation does not feel right to you, chances are it's not right for you. Intuition is that thing where your head and your heart start telling you something down here. If you listen to that, you're not going to go wrong. It takes